How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today I want to talk to you about what actually happened with Luna, not how it depegged, but where they spent their money and how much they have left, because they just gave us the numbers and it's not looking good. They spent a lot. So I'm gonna explain that. I also want to talk about what Binance did and how much money they made from this, because there is hope moving forward. So if you guys don't mind hitting the like button and subscribe button, I really appreciate that. It helps out the channel a lot. If you've seen videos here before, suggest hitting the subscribe button because I'm going to continue making daily videos. So before we move on, I do want to thank sponsor of the channel, FTX. Now there's a link to this underneath the video. 4 things that I really like about FTX. 1, they give you free crypto on trades over $10 using that link underneath the video. They also have really cheap trading fees, which is fantastic when you're talking about adding to your portfolios over time. You don't want expensive fees because especially if we're going into a bull run, even if it's 2 or 3 years from now, that could be worth a lot of money. Those fees could be 10 times more expensive when the price of Bitcoin or Solana or whatever you're buying goes up significantly. 3, they have a really easy to use interface, which makes it really nice for beginners. And they also have advanced trading options for people that are a little bit more into trading. And then 4, they do have no gas fees on their NFTs that you buy and sell on FTX. Use that link underneath the video or use code MYFF as in my financial friend when you log in and set up your account. Thank you guys, and thank you to FTX, and let's get into it. Let's get on to the main event. Luna spent 80,000 Bitcoin to try to get the peg back at $1 for UST. So they just came out with what they actually did. I'll show it here in a second and what they spent at different times. But just right off the bat, they did spend 80,000 Bitcoin and they failed to get the peg back at $1. So as of Saturday, May 7th, the Luna Foundation Guard held a reserve consisting of the following assets: 80,000 Bitcoin. That valued at $30,000, about $2.4 billion worth of Bitcoin. 40,000 BNB, not anything compared to this 80,000 Bitcoin, but it is still a significant amount. 26 million USDT, 24 million USDC, 2 million AVAX, 700 UST, and about 1.6 million Luna, which is also a significant amount, around 100 or 150 million. Consistent with the nonprofit mission and focus of the health of the Terra ecosystem, beginning on May 8, when the price of UST began to drop substantially below $1, the foundation began converting this reserve to UST. They did so by directly executing on-chain swaps and transferring BTC to a counterparty to enable them to enter trades with the foundation in larger size and on short notice. LFG directly sold 26 million USDT and 24 million USDC in aggregate of about 50.2 million UST. They transferred 52,000 Bitcoin to trade with the counterparty, net of an excess of 5,300 BTC. They have returned for an aggregate of about 1.5 billion UST. So they bought 1.5 billion UST and burned it. Or converted it. On May 10, when UST had fallen to 75 cents pursuant to a master services agreement dated January 10, through which the TFL management executed all finance requested on behalf of the foundation, execute the following exchange trades as a last-ditch effort to defend the peg. They sold 33.2 thousand more Bitcoin for about 1.2 billion UST. On May 12, LFG swapped 883 million UST to 221 million Luna. So they did this at about $4 per Luna and staked across a range of validators to protect against a possible governance attack as the amount of Luna continued to increase. As of now, the foundation's remaining reserves consist of 313 Bitcoin. That's all they have left of their 80,000. 40,000 BNB. So that's about $12 million. 2 million AVAX, maybe worth $50 million or 60, something like that, depending on what AVAX is at right now. 1.8 billion UST, which is worth 200 million or so, 300 million, something like that. And 222 million Luna, worth basically nothing, right? Like maybe $1 million, probably less than that, of which 221 million is currently staked with validators. All the assets will be returned to wallets tagged shortly. The Luna previously staked is unbonding and will be returned in 20 days. The foundation is looking to use its remaining assets to compensate remaining users of UST, smallest holders first. We're still debating through various distribution methods, updates to follow soon. So they have basically nothing left. If we look here, about $10 million worth of Bitcoin, $10 million BNB, maybe close to 100 million in AVAX, a couple hundred million in UST, but I'm guessing they're not going to sell this. Some of this, I don't know if you count this as a real reserve, because I don't think UST is going to go anywhere from here because they can't sell it to get cash and they don't have enough money to prop it back up. And then Luna is basically worthless as well. So they have under $100 million now if you don't count UST. This is after having $3 or $4 billion worth, really about $3 billion worth here in reserves. So, you might have lost 80% on UST. Luna lost even more. So it's crazy how much money was spent, and it did not fix the peg at all. And a lot of this was happening early, right? A lot of this was deployed really early on. They tried, they couldn't bring it back to peg. They tried again, and they couldn't bring it back to peg. So it had fallen to 0.75 after they spent so much. And I think a lot of this is due to the fact they didn't have an automatic mechanism to deploy this Bitcoin. Because if someone was looking at this and they didn't see any depegging after spending, hundreds of millions of dollars to try to depeg it, I don't know if they would have continued. I think one of the problems LFG had was the fact that they tried to explain exactly how much Bitcoin they had, which I get because they want to be clear. But the worst thing is that they didn't have an automatic mechanism to do this, and they weren't quick enough to do this, right? There's depegging. It depegged for a few hours. They made a joke about it the first day. It was down a cent. Then it depegged for a day down to 94 cents, and then it went back to maybe 96 or something like that, 97. Then it went down to 80, and then everyone realized, okay, this is real. This could continue to be depegged. And then it just kept on getting worse and worse and worse, with it falling down further and further and further. So it's amazing. Hopefully they give us transaction IDs here soon as well. I think that would kind of wrap everything up. Now, to be fair, they still have a lot of money, right? I mean, LFG, or I should say Luna, isn't worth much right now, compared to where it was before, but they still are 58 overall. They're still market cap over $1 billion. They still have $100 million in their reserves, even without UST. So the fact is they still have money to try to rebuild, but it's nothing compared to what they did have, and it's going to be really hard to regain trust. So hopefully they can start distributing to the people that lost money. They want to focus on the smaller accounts first, and hopefully they can continue to pay back their investors. Now, of course, we aren't entitled to anything. We knew the risk when we started investing in cryptocurrency, or at least you should know the risk. You can lose the majority of your wealth if you put it in just one or two different projects. That's why you always have to diversify. I definitely was too centralized in how much I had in UST. Specifically, I didn't have as much in Luna. I actually had a significant amount less in Luna than UST, which I guess was good, but still it took a big hit. So I want to hear your thoughts on this underneath the video. What do you think about them losing all this money and not being able to form the peg or fix the peg? Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.